to host Anthony Browder, Baba Anthony Browder. He is our elder, Anthony Browder. And I had to turn you guys' eyes to this mural over here. When we were creating this mural, I said I wanted to be a book. Well, I don't want it to just be a picture of people. I wanted to be intentional. I wanted to be focused. And me and my business partner, Donna Craddock, we thought long and hard of what this wall should be. And we had an artist that made it come to fruition. And one of those books, we said, Now Valley Contribution, that was already on the stack. We were just gonna figure out what order it was gonna be in. That was like our go-to book. It was what he has done, what his literary work, his research has done to help sustain this bookstore is phenomenal. Because we are able to put his books on our shelves and he keeps information coming and coming, and it's factual information, it's research information. His work, his study, the archaeology research that he's doing is paramount for us to have this space to get it out to the people. And you guys come and support. So I am just honored just to have his book on that wall, and you can check out some of the other books, and those are the books that really have pushed our culture forward. But just to introduce the Doc Bookshop, if you have not been here, the Doc Bookshop opened in 2008. It has been here for about 18 years. It is a total labor of love.
Yes.
I said God is all in this space, because I probably would have left a long time ago, because and we've been rooted in this store. Like it's been hard, it's been challenging, but because you guys come in each and every, or you support us online, we are still here. I do want to recognize, because sometimes I get jealous when I'm at book conferences, especially for the older bookstores. They always have their leadership in the space. And I am just, so many years, 18 years, I have my leader that just continued to show up, show out all the time, ever since she came back to Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So I had to tell people, this is our city council from District 5.
That's right.
She
Well,
just
we
came
all
back
right.
from, stand up please. You deserve it. How she continues to show up, and how she continues to listen to us, especially with us being in our community. It's all the time, through the night. In Japan, she was like, well, what are you doing? What's going on? I'm checking. I said, you know what? I'm not going to bother you. Just enjoy your trip, because it's well deserved. She's everywhere. So again, I thank you and I honor you for being here. I am going to turn this over to Ricky Clark. If you want to know more about the Doc Bookshop, please visit with myself or my business partner, Donna Craddock, and we have staff throughout the store. So I'm going to turn this over to you so we can get the conversation started.
All right, well, let's get started, y'all. Promise not to be long, but we do promise to be strong. I'm going to bring Mr. Browder out in a few minutes. He's also my frat brother. He's an alpha. I didn't even know that, right? So I'm going to read this intro he's right there. I'm going to read the intro before I bring him up. And if y'all know anything about Ricky, I've been doing this for a while. I don't really do no intro. I'll just go ahead and put it out there. But I wanted to make sure that you all knew the presence of the person we have with us today. So I'm going to read it, all right? It is a proud honor to introduce our guest today, a man whose life work has been dedicated to unerasing history and restoring the cultural identity of African diaspora. Anthony T. Browder is an international acclaimed historian, publisher, cultural memory specialist. For over 4 decades, he has been tirelessly researching of African history and culture. Authority's seminal work included From the Browder File and Survival Strategies for Africans in America. Beyond the writing words, he is a literary truth seeker in the field. As a director of the ASA Restoration Project, he made history as the first African American to fund and lead an archaeological excavation in Egypt, overseeing the restoration of the 25th dynasty tombs in Luxor. Some of y'all ain't impressed with nothing. Listen to what I'm saying. His work does more than just document the past. He provides a blueprint for the future. Through his lectures and his latest insight, the Browder perspective, he challenged us all to look beyond the last 2 pages of history, to rediscover the thousands of years of brilliance that came before. Please join me in welcoming a true pioneer in the restoration of the African mind, Mr. Anthony T. Browder. Can we give him a standing ovation? back. We was back there talking. I was like, Brother Anthony, told him I was Chicago, talking about that. I said, I'm going to tell you the questions. No, you ain't going to tell me the questions. Just talk to me out here when we get out of here. And then earlier, he was in here, and sometimes when y'all speakers, when they come in, we'll take them in the back. He was like, no. I said, well, they going to wait you. I said, no, I don't want to be where I like it. I want to be around the people. He didn't want to go in and sit in the back. And I love that. Because when you for the people, you involved in the people. So we're going to ask a few questions. And after we ask a few questions, I'm going to let you all ask a few questions. And then we're going to do the book signing. I got to warn y'all, normally when we do the book, it's just be a long, long line. So I hope you've already purchased your book. If you hadn't, you can raise your hand and somebody will bring you one. And we'll take you from there. But that's going to be the longest part. So we're going to ask a few questions. After you respond to a few questions, I'm going to let him say a few things. And I'm going to let you all ask a few questions. But we're not going to be that long, okay? Is that okay? Because I know he wore out. All right, then. Let's get down there. All right. How you doing, frat brother?
Man,
You better? There your mic. He more better. All right. I knew him from Chicago, but I didn't know he was an alpha man like me. So we're not going to talk about that. But anyway, I have just a few questions that I want to ask. And if I'm all excited, there's a reason why. Because every time, if anybody knows me, I always refer to your book. When you come into the bookstore, those are all the books that you can get. But From the Browder File is one of the books that I've been promoting for the last 18 years. So when people come into the bookstore, he's smiling because he know what I'm talking about. So they'll come into the bookstore, they be looking for information. The first time I've ever been reading, I was like, okay, well, let me introduce you to Anthony Browder. And the reason why I did that is because when I've been reading for years, but when I read his book, he would give you 20 topics, short 2-page essays. But not only give you the 2-page essays, if you read 20 of them, now you got 20 topics you can talk about. But what's even deeper than that? He always gave reference. So what I would do was read his books and then read the reference books. And then read the reference books of the reference books. All right? So if you really want to know something, get it out of a book. So here's my first question. On reclaiming identity through history. And From the Browder File, you discuss how a lost memory affects the collective consciousness of people of African descent. For those working with youth today, how does teaching a history that begins thousands of years before the Ma'afa or slavery fundamentally change a young person's self-perspective and behavior? Let me read it one more time. For those working with youth today, how does teaching a history that begins thousands of years before the Ma'afa fundamentally change the young person's self-perspective and behavior?
All right, so if you think about the fact, and I referenced this in the introduction to the latest book.
That's right.
There's a saying, you are what you eat, right? You eat good food, you be a good person. You eat junk food, you be a junky person. You are what you eat. You are also what you think. You're also what you see. You're also what you hear, right? So whatever comes into you shapes you on a genetic level. Impacts you, changes your genes, and affects every person that is going to be a descendant from you, right? And so what's important for me to pass on to young folk is that the truth is already inside of them. All you have to do is speak the truth, and it resonates on a cellular level. You speak the truth. They hear it, and they may be hearing it for the first time, so you give understanding that accompanies the truth. So now they understand why they feel this way, why they feel good upon knowing the truth about themselves. And that then changes everything. So if you understand how the universe functions, how everything within the universe functions, then you just apply universal principles and you get what you want. So that's easy.
And I know that's true. So I've been working in schools, like I said, with the kids. So when I share with them, I said with them earlier, the exact same presentation you saw me give it last week. That exact same presentation I give at TCU, I give that exact same presentation at pre-K. And when I'm in the pre-K, it's 30, 40 kids. They've been in here before. They don't move, they don't run, they're not playing with their little fingers, they ain't got to use the restroom. And you would ask yourself, how can a pre-K, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old sit still and listen to the presentation without moving? And it goes back to what he said. They can feel it. Like right now, you can feel what we're talking about, can't you? All right, then. Let's go to the next one. All right. Thank you very much. All right, next one. And I'm going straight from the book. On the power of terminology, you've often spoken about how Egypt is a Greek word and Kemet is the original name. Why is it vital for us to restore original African names and terminology when teaching our children? And what does it do for their mental reintegration?
So as Dr. Clark taught all of his students, a name should connect the people to land, language, history, culture, philosophy, and a God concept. Right? So if your name does not do that, it's not your name. Names contain energy. So when you call African things by European names, you're stripping away the energy, the power, the consciousness, and the person knows that. That's why they changed the name. So imagine, everybody's seen Roots, right? The original Roots. Everybody saw when they beat the African out of Kunta Kinte.
That's right.
And called him Toby. So if you can imagine, the year after Kunta Kinte had been kidnapped, if his mama had been kidnapped, and she came to a concentration camp that was a mile from where her son was, and she asked everybody, have you seen Kunta? Have you seen Kunta? They wouldn't have known who she was talking about. Why? Because the name was changed. And so Egypt is a Greek word. Sphinx is a Greek word. Pyramid is a Greek word. So every time you use those words, you're giving power to your oppressor and taking power away from your ancestors. So the first thing that you need to do is to restore the original name and all the power that is associated. Think about the Bible. In the beginning was what? The Word. Why? Because there's power in the Word. It's energy. It's sound vibration. And that sound vibration has a frequency, a resonance. And it touches, it internalizes everything. So as you said with the first question, when you tell the truth to someone, they hear it and that sound vibrations enters them. So you are also what you hear. Huh? You're what you hear. So when you're hearing words that resonate with you on a cellular level, it awakens the genius within you. It awakens your ancestors. And your ancestors now, just as you did with the libation, you call the names of your ancestors to come, to summon them forward, to be with you. And once they come to you, then they bring their power with them and they empower you. Everybody heard the word inspire? You inspire me, right? What does that word mean? Inspire. In spirit.
Teach, bro.
In spirit, right? Certain people inspire you. Thinking about that person, you are also what you think. Thinking about that person brings an image into your mind. You see them, you feel them, you become them. That's the power that your oppressor will never teach you. Why? Because it ain't their job. It's our responsibility to know who we are, to tell our stories, and to pass our stories from mouth to ear, from generation to generation. That's how we free ourselves. Right.
I had a chance to see you on a podcast with the Alphas, some friends. And I don't know, I've been asking a question. I don't know what you think about it, so I'm putting it out here. So we use the word pyramid or the word sphinx. I always tell them the sphinx have wings. The Hermaka doesn't have wings.
Right.
How do you deal with that? Or do you ever bring it up when you with some of the brothers and they ask those questions? And because I always thought that, why don't we even use the word Greek letter fraternities? We taught the Greeks didn't teach us. Mm-hmm. And then I'm asking the question, what would it do in the world if we stop calling ourselves Greeks, right? And start calling it by the name and calling the items by the names of what they are. I wonder what would change. But what do you, just that question right there, how do you deal with that, or do you even talk about it, or any of your brothers have asked?
So, two ways I can answer that question. One is there's an old statement that everybody is familiar with. When in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Right.
Right. So when you're in Rome, you speak Roman. You speak Latin. When you're in Greece, you speak Greek. When you're in Spain, you speak Spanish.
Right.
So you speak to people where they are.
Okay.
You speak to people in their language so that they can hear you and then understand you. And as the understanding increases, then you begin to speak to them in a broader context. Right? You reach people where they are, right? And it's not about leaving folk behind. It's about creating a space where you can bring as many people who want to come. And the folk that want to come, I ain't gonna force you. I learned a lesson from Harriet Tubman. Don't argue with somebody that Harriet Tubman would have left behind. Some folk like being enslaved. Some folk like being in prison. And that's your right. I'm not going to impose myself on you. That ain't me. right? If you want to be free, then I'll show you the road to freedom. If you want to be a slave, then fine. I'm just going to get away from you because I don't want that energy. I don't want to internalize that energy. So in that context, let me go back to something you said when you first asked that question about the word pyramid. Pyramid is a Greek word. So if you understand what pyramid means, right? We have been taught by our oppressor that the pyramids are a tomb.
Right.
That's what,
foolishness.
You read National Geographic,
Right.
you watch all these pyramids are tombs. So I've been to Egypt 68 times, right? And there are 112 pyramids in Egypt. None of them are tombs. I've been inside many pyramids. I climbed the Great Pyramid in my second day in Egypt, right? Pyramids are not tombs. Pyramids were built over tombs. So a pyramid is the equivalent of a tombstone. You would not call a tombstone a tomb. A tombstone says who is buried underneath this object. So the African word for that structure is mir, M-I-R. The word mir means the place of ascension. The place of ascension. So process this, right? Mir means place of ascension. Mir is built over tombs. So a mir is designed to facilitate the ascension of the soul buried in the tomb underneath it into heaven so that the soul of that person can be reborn. Let's think this through. Now, right? So the first mir that has text written on a tomb underneath is the mir of Unas near Saqqara. And so that text has not mistakenly, because they did it intentionally, the Europeans refer to that text as pyramid text, but it's not in the pyramid. There's no writing in any of the pyramids at all. The writing is in the tombs underneath. So in the tomb of Unas, it talks about the mir, and it talks about where the soul goes to be resurrected. It talks about the soul. It talks about the process of the salvation of the soul, and it talks about where the souls go to be reborn. Now we're talking about, this is a text that is documented in a tomb before there were Jews, before Jesus, before Muhammad.
Come on now.
I only talk about what I know. I don't talk about what I feel. I don't talk about what I think. I talk about what I know, and I always provide you the evidence.
Yes, he does.
I tell you the evidence because this ain't Tony Browder saying this.
Right.
It's me sharing what I have researched, and here's my documentation. So if you want to know for yourself, this is where you go. This is where you'll find it. And if it touches your heart and opens your mind and your heart, then so be it. So I follow this process. So a mir means a place of ascension, and it was designed to facilitate the ascension of the soul in the tomb underneath into a specific portion of heaven, not just the sky, but into a specific region of the sky. And the region of the sky where souls go to be reborn is the region of the sky that all of you all have seen. You just don't know what you were looking at. It's a constellation of 7 stars that you all know this constellation as Orion. That's the Greek word, Orion. Anybody know the African word? No, it ain't ours.
What is it?
The African word is Sahu.
Sahu.
Right? And so Sahu is, and then so you know Orion because the 7 stars in the constellation of Orion. You know Orion because the 3 stars in the belt of Orion. The first star in the belt of Orion is where all souls go to be reborn.
Teach, brother.
Right? That's the purpose of the mir. It's the purpose of the mir. So some enlightened white Egyptologists have begun to use the word mir because we brought it forward, right? And so some are using the word mir now, and some have even gone so far as to refer to the mir as resurrection machines.
Wow.
That's what they are.
Yeah. Well, in reality.
That's what they are. And so here's the last part, and then I go back to you, Ricky.
No, you good. Take your time.
Sahu is the name of Asar after he was resurrected. Sahu is the name of Asar after Set found his body parts, reassembled them, remembered him, and wrapped his body in bandages. So the wrapped body of Asar was known as Sahu. It was over 1,000 years or so later that Arabs then invented the term mummy
Right.
to describe Sahu. So if you don't know your original language,
Teach, bro.
if you don't know the original words, if you don't know the original vibrations that come with the words, you don't know squat. And that's how they like it. It's about disconnecting you with your essence, with your soul, with your spirit, disconnecting you from your ancestors, because as long as you remain disconnected, they can continue to run game on you.
That pyramid, 48 stories high, 755 feet wide, taking 2,300,000 stone to wheel, each stone weighing 3 tons or more. And the chief architect of the step pyramid is Imhotep. Things like that. And when we teach kids that, they respond the same way. They like, it's in their head. And they get it. They get it really quick, right? Really quickly. I also teach them about the Sphinx. Can you talk a little bit about the Hermakin?
Okay, so Sphinx is a Greek word. And the word Sphinx means to strangle or to hold. In the medical community, or to restrict, right? When you squeeze something, shakes. Okay, so you understand, right? So there are muscles in your body called sphincter muscles. You all are sitting on a sphincter muscle right now because ain't nobody jumping up to go to the bathroom except the sister who just left, right?
Okay.
The pupil of your eye is a sphincter muscle because it constricts when you walk out of a closed space or a dark space into the light. The sphincter muscle. So a sphinx means something to strangle or to hold. So that statue, which is the oldest sculpture ever created by human beings on the planet, its original name is Her-M-Aket. Her-M-Aket. Her means Heru, M means on, Aket means the horizon, the place where the sun rises and sets. So that image, so you need to ask, well, who is Heru? Heru is the son of Asar and Aset. Heru is, if you go back and understand that the letter J was not invented until like the 15th century.
Yeah.
Let me repeat that. The letter J was not invented until the 15th century. So everybody who you pray to, whose name starts with J, that wasn't his or her name. Which is why your prayers ain't been answered. I'm just saying. It's like calling the wrong number and get mad because the person you calling don't pick up. You got to call them by their right name. Right? So Heru is the prototype for the person that we now call Jesus. Heru was born on December the 25th, same birthday as his father. Heru was born of a virgin. Heru was born to avenge the murder of his father and to restore his father's kingdom. So if someone steals your name, if someone steals your land, if someone steals your history, your culture, and your memory and steals you, then what makes you think they're going to start telling you the truth or teaching you the truth? If they don't like you on earth, what makes you think they're going to love you in heaven? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make bad sense. So it's about being willing to be free and taking the shackles off your brain, off your mind. And when you free yourself, you now are freeing the ancestors who dwell inside of you. 2 weeks ago, last week, weekend before last, April 25th was National DNA Day. National DNA Day, right? And it's important to understand that every person carries in their body the DNA of their ancestors going back time immemorial. I was going to say at least 10,000 years, but going back. And so let's understand who the first ancestors were. Geneticists have determined that the oldest DNA that every human being on this planet carries in their body is DNA, mitochondrial DNA, that has been traced back to a group of women who are still living in Africa. That DNA is over 300,000 years old. Geneticists have determined the Y chromosome, which all males carry. And they determined that that Y chromosome has been traced to a group of men who are still living in East Africa now. And just recently, there's a new story that's come out about this brother in South Carolina.
I heard it.
They've done his DNA study, and his DNA is like 330,000 years. It's older than what they thought the oldest DNA was. All right? And so the reality is, everybody on this planet originated from the original man and woman who were African. And if the original man and the woman were created in the image of God, then who is God? God is you.
Teach, bro.
It's simple, it's basic, it's plain. And so every one of us carry within our bodies the DNA that goes back at least 300,000 years. Now, the other part of this equation that we have to process out is, when did white DNA or European DNA evolve? Geneticists have studied that and answered that question. They said that the DNA of African people living in Western Asia, the landmass that we now know as Europe, that DNA mutated, and the Africans lost their melanin, their curly hair became straight to insulate their bodies, their facial features constricted because of the cold, their eye color changed, and that African people mutated and became the people now known as Caucasians between 12 and 8,000 years ago.
They only that.
Process.
Only 12,000 years.
Process that. If African people have been here for at least 300,000 years, and the people who stole you and raped your ancestors and beat them and are lying to us now and erasing your history, doing away with everything that will lead you to understanding who you are, have only been here, let's just say 10,000 years. Then that means we have a 290,000 year head start on them. We got a whole lot of history we need to know, a whole lot of names that we need to reclaim, a whole lot of consciousness, spirituality that we need to restore in order to become our authentic selves, as opposed to a cheap copy of the devil.
Teach, bro. and you know, and I know y'all hitting that. I'm gonna ask one more. I seen them talk about this on there. When you talk about Isis and Horus and Osiris, do you all know that story? Yeah. Do you know where he's coming from? So it's the same story we talk about Jesus and Mary. That story right there, where does it come from? If you could just speak on that a little bit about Isis and Horus, because I've seen you talk about it, and people come to me like, "Well, Ricky, this is where it come. This is where I got it from." Okay. So don't blame me, blame him. Come on, he told me.
But let me go back.
And it's in the Browder file.
Let me go back to the Sphinx again, because I didn't complete that thought. So the word Sphinx means to strangle or to hold, and Sphinx is a Greek word.
Yeah.
And the Greek Sphinx has a female head on the body of a lion and the wings of an eagle. That is a Sphinx.
That's what a Sphinx looks like.
Why did the Greeks create or present the Sphinx as a female? Because the Greeks believed that women were evil.
Yeah.
Women were the source of evil, right? And so the Sphinx, the story of the Sphinx comes to us from the story written by Sophocles of Oedipus Rex, King Oedipus. And so you've heard the riddle of the Sphinx, right? Everybody should be familiar with the riddle of the Sphinx. So in the story of Oedipus, the Sphinx was a monster that was perched on a hill leading to the city of Thebes. And anyone who walked past that road was asked the question or the riddle of the Sphinx, what walks on 2 legs in the morning, 3 legs in the afternoon, 4 legs in the evening, and more legs that it walks on, the weaker it becomes. And anyone who didn't answer that question was strangled by the Sphinx. Hence the word Sphinx means to strangle or to hold. So the only person who answered that question was this man by the name of Oedipus. Because of the fact Oedipus was originally the son of a king. He was a prince, which meant that he received a royal education. He didn't receive the same education that y'all received.
Right.
He received a royal education. And so he knew that the question the riddle of the Sphinx was a question that was not meant to be taken literally. He knew that it was a metaphor. So he analyzed the question and realized, well, it's a metaphor for man, human, who as a child crawls on 4 legs, as an adult stands on 2, as an elder walks with a cane or 3. So after having successfully answering that question, then the Sphinx committed suicide and jumped off a cliff. And Oedipus then goes into the city of Thebes, and he is heralded as a savior and is made the king because the king disappeared on a journey several decades before. So they make him the king, and then he inherits the kingdom and the king's wife. So they produce children, he has a good time, and then all of a sudden, everything starts going south in Thebes. So Oedipus is this wise man. He says, so listen, something must be going on. So he gathered these wise men and sent them out into the countryside to scour the countryside to find out why things are going bad. So dude came back and said, Oedipus, I got some good news and I got some bad news. Right? I found out why there's a curse on the city. The curse on the city is because King Laius, that was his name, King Laius, had been murdered by this man as he was making this journey. And that man was you. What are you talking about? So when Oedipus was born, he was born to King Laius. And the king had his son's fortune told. And the fortune teller said, you're going to be murdered by your son. So the king gave the baby to these men and said, take him out in the woods and kill him. But the men couldn't kill him, so they let him go. Right? They gave him to this other couple who raised him as their own son. So Oedipus was raised by somebody else, and then when he's older, he goes to get a reading, and the reader tells him that your destiny is to kill your father. And so he leaves his home because he doesn't want to kill the man who he loved, who raised him. So along his path to Thebes now, he encounters King Laius. They get into a fight, and he kills King Laius. Wow. Right? Wow. And so then he finds out. Now, this is a Greek story.
Listen, y'all.
This is why you need to understand who the Greeks are. So Oedipus then realizes that he not only murdered his father, but he married and had children with his mama. Wow. So Sigmund Freud, who studied Greek history, then comes up with this idea of the Oedipus complex based on his knowledge of white Jewish men. Let's be specific. He didn't study any black folk. He's talking about Jewish pathology. And he said that Jewish men have this desire to murder their fathers so that they can have sex with their mamas. So that's why it's so critically important to know yourself. Not the Greeks, not the Romans, not the French or the Germans, but to know yourself. So here's the original story. The African name is Hera-Maket, right? Who is Heru? Heru was the son of Asar and Aset. Who are Asar and Aset? So Asar, Aset, and Heru were renamed Osiris, Isis, and Horus by the Greeks.
Right.
All right? So Asar was the person responsible for founding the first nation state.
Y'all hear that?
He established Kemet. Right. He introduced writing. He introduced agriculture. He introduced God concepts to his people, and he married a beautiful sister by the name of Aset. She was his co-regent. And then Asar decided, well, I've got these powers, I've got these talents, but I don't want to keep them here in my country. I want to spread them among my people. Right. So he told his wife, baby, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go and share this knowledge with my folk. So while I'm gone, I want you to run our kingdom, which meant that he didn't marry a bimbo, right? He married someone that was his co-equal. Right. So she ruled the land in his absence while he went to spread knowledge around the world. But this act angered Asar's brother, Set, who felt that he should have been left in charge. So Set then plotted the murder of his brother. When his brother returned, he killed the Tsar, and depending on which version of the story you read,
Y'all hear this?
his body was cut in either 14 pieces or 24 pieces, right? So after he murdered Aset, after he murdered the Tsar, Aset fled for her life because he knew he was going to kill her next. So Aset then went searching for the missing parts of her husband's body. Now follow this
Y'all
story.
hear the story,
And
man.
I want you all to understand a couple of things. One, this story is over 6,000 years old.
Look in the Bible.
And by having a conversation with Haile Gerima, a filmmaker, brother who did the film Sankofa. Haile Gerima is from Ethiopia. And Haile said, you and Asa and all of y'all are talking about Egypt, but don't you know everything that you talk about regarding Egypt came out of Ethiopia? I did some research and I found out that the story of Asar and Aset and Heru was in Ethiopia 10,000 years ago, 4,000 years before it was in Egypt, before it was in Kemet. Right? So in this story, short version, and then I'll stop. Aset found the missing parts of Asar's body. She found 13 of the 14 parts of Asar's body. She literally remembered her husband.
Y'all hear that part?
Wrapped his body in bandages and created Sahu. And then she was about to bury her husband. She was about to bury the man that she loved. And she grieved as any widow would grieve. So when I do the study tours to Egypt, I take people to the temples so that you can see where these stories are carved in stone. So I take folks to the temple of Abydos, where this story is carved in stone. And so before Aset was about to bury her husband, she grieved because Aset was also a virgin. She and her husband had never consummated their marriage, so she would not be able to bear children by the man that she loved. So then the spirit of her husband, the spirit of Asar, came and impregnated his virgin wife Aset. And then 9 months later, the virgin Aset gave birth to her son Heru, who was born, as I said earlier, on December the 25th, the same birthday as his daddy.
Y'all hear that?
All right? So that's the story that has been hidden by the changing of names and by taking Egypt out of Africa and putting it somewhere in the Middle East, disconnecting us from our historical and cultural memory so that they could replace our memories with lies designed to confuse us. So when someone comes to you and talks about Kemet, talks about Asar and said, nigga, why you coming in with that African stuff? I ain't African. Right. Everybody else takes African
And use it.
changes the name,
Come on now.
and then uses it to lift themselves up and want to deny you and keep you from gaining access to your original ancestral knowledge. So this whole thing is about reclaiming your mind, reclaiming the consciousness that comes with the restoration of your history, and then being the best vessel possible for your ancestors to work through so that they can live through your actions. That's what it's all about.
All right, then. Say it like that, brother. All right, I have one more question and we'll ask you a question. On the miseducation of the community, you have in your famous essay titled From Miseducation to Education, in your view, what are the most dangerous false memories currently being taught in our school systems, and how can we independent mentoring programs like MBK help correct those mental diets?
All right, so the first thing I got to do is to correct you on the use of the word mentor. Mentor is a Greek word.
Yeah.
All right. So who is mentor? Mentor was the man that Ulysses made an arrangement to raise his son while he went off to fight in the Trojan War, because he knew he was going to be gone for a long time. So he asked his trusted friend to raise his son, to educate his son while he was gone, and his friend's name was Mentor.
Wow.
So as a result, a mentor agreeing to raise Odysseus' son, Odysseus went out to participate in the Trojan War to rape, pillage, and murder.
Wow.
So mentor was an accessory to rape,
We won't be using that in here.
Well,
Give me another word for it. Give me another word for mentor.
That's why I bring it up.
I need that.
So Haile Gerima gave us an appropriate substitute.
Give it to me.
So the appropriate substitute is a Amharic word that comes from Ethiopia, and that word is Jegna. 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 The word Jegna means a defender of the culture.
Jegna.
A defender
like
of
that.
the culture.
Okay, I'll take
All right.
it.
So
We gonna have some Jegnas.
you open the door when you talk
I
about
need it.
words.
I want it. I want that.
And so, what was your question? I forgot your question.
It was
Miseducation?
Yeah,
or something?
but yeah. How does it? No, it says false. Years ago, you have famous essay title from Miseducation to Education. In your view, what are the most dangerous false memories currently being taught in our school systems, and how can we independently change that?
All right, so I give you the simple response. Education is a Greek word, a Greek concept from educere,
bring
which
out.
means to bring out.
Right.
Right. And it's based on the Greek concept that a person is born a blank slate.
Right.
Tabula rasa, a blank slate. And that is the job of the mentor,
Right.
right?
Mentor.
To put information into your mind.
That's right.
Now contrast that to the African concept that everyone is born as a returning ancestor. And you already have the knowledge inside of you. And so it's the role of the educator, right? It's the role of the Jegna to then bring that knowledge outside of you. So that's why, as you said in the very beginning, when you speak the truth, it resonates with the genes in everybody. And your ancestors hear that. I know that truth. I know that truth. And hearing the truth is like rubbing Aladdin's lap and allowing the genie to come out to grant your wishes. Genie, the word genie is an Arabic word that comes from the word jinn. And the word jinn is the root of the word genes. So all that is about is accessing your ancestral memory and bringing the ancestors forward. So it speaks to what I refer to in the book as ancestral intelligence. Right? And ancestral intelligence is the only AI that matters to African people. Don't get caught up in this other stuff. That's Frankenstein stuff. This other AI, that's Frankenstein stuff, right? And realize when we talk about Frankenstein, Frankenstein is not the monster. Frankenstein was a doctor who created the monster. So get the history right. Right?
And so now with all this AI and computers, even in the classroom, I'm glad that, for me, it's an I statement, I'm glad they can't use the phones. I want them to read, pick up a book and read. I do. So I'm good that we can go get information, because the sad part about it, they got it in their hands and they don't even use it. Right? I asked a question. Can you name 5 black men who've done something great? Martin and Malcolm can't be one of them. They can't play sports and can't be entertainers. Do you know those kids cannot name 5? Well, it ain't their fault. It's our fault that they cannot name 5. Right? So with that said, my question is, how do we battle with that? They're always on their phone. I know what I do with my grandson, but put that phone down and we just start teaching them. But my question is, do you think with the computers and the phones that it's affecting our children, the way they're thinking, their rhythm, like they constantly looking at the phone, they constantly playing music that don't appeal to them, and I like the phone, but you're not using it for the right things. If I'd have had that when I was 14 and 15, I'd be a genius. Right? But now they got the phones and none of them are geniuses. Like it's dumbing them down instead of making them smarter. Can you speak on that just a little bit?
So 2 things to consider. Most people use the phones to play video games.
Sad.
Right? Look at the people who design the video games. People who design the video games don't allow their children to play the games because they know what the games do to your brain, to your conscience. They make you ignorant. They make you foolish. The other part of the equation is this. The internet, what I sometimes refer to as the information stupid highway. The internet was designed by DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Program, where all of these scientists, all these geniuses, they developed this technology to be used by the Pentagon. So the internet was created in the 70s in order to allow military computers to communicate with each other. So once the military began to understand the power in this technology, they then said, well, how can we use this technology for a civilian application? How can we get it to the people in order to keep the people at a subservient level, right? So now, you know, we've got, what, 2-3 generations that have grown up with this technology.
Yeah.
We got kids who don't know, who've only used a remote all their lives. They don't know about turning the channel with the dial. Right?
Antenna.
And so the other part of this, so we've got several generations that have been disconnected from their real selves, their authentic selves. What these cell phones do in the hands of someone who has been miseducated, these cell phones are devices designed to steal your soul. Steal your soul. So all you have to do is watch someone who spends a lot of time on cell phones and watch their behavior. Listen to their language. And you can see someone whose soul has been sucked out of their body. Wow. Right? So the other thing that we have to be aware of is with regards to cell phones that were used in schools. Just last year, the American Pediatric Association introduced information research saying that no one under the age of 12 should even have access to a cell phone or any of this technology. School systems are now taking the tablets and computers out of school because they know that it impedes the mental, psychological, physical, emotional, and spiritual development of the people who use this. They also know that the light, the blue light that comes from these devices is absorbed through your eyes, and it disconnects the neurons which transmit information, right? And it makes you dumber. And I would not be surprised if 10, 15, 20 years from now, they also discover that the radiation from these devices give you cancer. Folk talk about Johnny Cochran, they talk about, what's the brother, Reginald Lewis, and how these high-powered black men all had brain cancer. Why? Because they used the brick, the early model of these cell phones that were actually supposed to stay down. Put it down, put it down, leave it down, leave it down, right? So we will find out, probably most of us after we're gone, that the technology that we've been using has been killing us, right? So it's important to learn to listen to your body, because in your body is Big Mama, right? It's Pop Pop telling you, girl, you need to put that down, you need to do this. So it's important for us to take time with yourself, right? Take time with yourself. There are more people now coming out, more psychologists, more physicians saying now, 2 hours before you go to bed, you should not deal with computers, cell phones, or watch television. 2 hours before you go to bed, so that you can clear your mind and have that deep sleep that will allow you to move into REM, so that you can tap into your ancestral intelligence. Because it's when you are sleeping that your body begins, your pineal glands begins to secrete melatonin. And as I learned from Richard King, back in 79 or 80, and he started talking about the black dot, the doorway to collective unconsciousness. Richard King, a psychiatrist, who, along with Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, a psychiatrist, talked about the anatomical and spiritual structure of the brain. So your pineal gland is your direct line of communication with God. Your direct line of communication with God, with the Creator, with the ancestors. Your pineal gland secretes this hormone called melatonin between like 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, and it coats your brain. Melatonin coats your brain or anoints your brain.
Anoint.
And that then opens up your spiritual centers and allows you to commune with the Creator. Every person has that ability built into your physical hardware. Right? So let me say this before you go to the last question. And this will incentivize everybody who doesn't have the book to buy the book, because there's a chapter in the book where I talk about Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Well, let me bring it up now.
Yeah.
Let me bring it up now. Earth,
I
Wind,
talked
and
about it
Fire,
on the golf course yesterday.
the baddest band in the land.
That's right.
So I reference, I'm trying, well, find it in there. So tell the folks the page number. So 32? Thank you. Thank you. So I referenced their 1978 album, All in All, which is one of the baddest album covers in the history. The album is tight too.
Yeah.
All in All. And so it shows you the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously on the front and back cover. The inside cover shows you the 12 pathways that Africa has given knowledge to the world, the means by which you can come to know God through music, through science, through medicine, through astrology, through literature, through meditation, through prayers. These are all ways that you can commune with the Creator. Now, the point that I want to make in making that point, Maurice White was the founder of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Grew up in Memphis. When he was 18, he moved to Chicago to live with his mom and stepdad. And once he came to Chicago, he was introduced to brothers, musicians, and artists who had already been studying Nile Valley civilization, right? Already been studying Nile Valley civilization. So there was a collective of artists and musicians who were like deep into this stuff. There was a group in Chicago known as the Pharaohs, right?
Yes.
Right? There was a musician, a pianist in Chicago who Maurice White used to drum for, called Ramsey Lewis, right? Musicians in Chicago had already been influenced by Sun Ra, who had come to Chicago and influenced a musician on the south side of Chicago named Phil Karan, right? And Phil Karan played multiple instruments. It was Phil Karan who was performing somewhere on the south side of Chicago. It was Phil Karan who was playing the kalimba, the thumb piano. Maurice was standing in the wings, saw that instrument. The next day he went to a pawn shop and bought one. And then that instrument became the main instrument that he played performing with the band. Now here's this. The baddest album ever made came out 1975. It's called That's the Way of the World.
That's the way.
It's a soundtrack to one of the worst movies ever made. The movie's terrible. Movie's terrible, but the soundtrack is power. And what Maurice White did with his music was to use sound vibration in order to deliver a message that was esoteric and exoteric. It was exoteric in that it was designed to give you a rhythm, a beat, to get you on the floor, get you dancing, but it's also esoteric in that there were hidden messages embedded in the music, the rhythm, and the lyrics that would awaken someone who is ready to be awakened. So, the lyrics to That's the Way of the World. Hearts of fire create love, desire to take you higher, higher to the world you belong. Hearts of fire create love, desire to take you higher, higher to your place on the throne. What was Maurice talking about? He was talking about the 7 chakras. He was talking about the spiritual centers in man, 7 chakras. The root chakra is the lowest chakra. It ties you to earth. It ties you to things that are materialistic, to money, to greed, to anger, to sex. And the idea was to raise your energy from the lower chakra to the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra, which burns off the negativity, as they call it. All right? And once you raise the information or the energy to the heart chakra, which is about love, Once you raise it to the heart chakra, then you can go higher to your place on the throne, the crown chakra.
Y'all just learned something.
So Maurice White was teaching us who we are.
Way black
Using the music, right? Using the music. And so the beauty of, I'm a child of the 60s, so I'm R&B is my thing, right? That's when songs of love, songs played by real musicians, not computers.
Yeah, Pharaoh.
Songs that your great-great-grandmama can listen to and say,
Right.
yeah, I like that. Right. They can't listen to this garbage
Like
today
TYG or something.
because it's designed, the oral pornography that people call music today,
Teach, brother.
that our children are listening to, is designed to
Like a
lock you
lollipop.
in the root chakra. Lock you down in hell.
Come on.
Lock you down into slavery. And that's what our children are consuming.
That's
That's
right.
what we're competing
We gotta counter
against.
that.
So once you know this, then as you talk to young folk, put on the Earth, Wind, and Fire album in the background.
Right.
So you allow that sound vibration to enter their body, and then you listen to the lyrics. And then you can have a conversation with them about the music. How do you feel listening to this music? Right? It's designed to take you higher, and then put on some Cardi B and let them listen to that. How do you feel listening to Cardi B?
Right.
All right. So
Or
we
Nicki
have
Minaj.
tools at our we have tools at our disposal that we can use once we understand how to use the tools.
So you mentioned that. Hold up.
Okay.
And right there up the front, she has the centers up there, right? The album cover, I think it's up there somewhere.
Okay, it's up
And
there.
so the movie,
All
right?
right.
And I know you like
Ryan Coogler.
Coogler and the Panther. So when we showed the Panther here, or when they had the Black Panther movie, everybody was in there. The Dark Bookshop, we was packed. There was so many people. I think we had to hold up 2 stages or something when y'all did that, right? 3. We held up 3 different rooms. But then when they prayed center, he ain't in there like that, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about why Coogler, what he did with the Black Panther, and how he even did even better when he came with Center to let people know that it ain't about no vampires. He was telling a whole lot of stories in there, and if you didn't see it, well, you had to see it a couple of times. But share that with me. You mentioned a little bit of it in the book.
So I've seen Sinners about 12 times because I don't just watch a movie.
Come on, he's
I'm
studying.
an artist. I'm an artist, so I'm looking at the photography. I'm looking at the cinematography. I'm looking at the music. I'm looking at the placement of everything. I'm looking at the costumes. I'm looking at the set design. I'm looking at the acting. I'm looking at why are they shooting it from this. I'm looking at all of this because those are the decisions that go into making a film that costs $100 million and might make $1 billion. All right? So you want to think on that level. I think on that level. So when I started checking out Ryan Coogler, when I saw Black Panther, I realized this is a film that was written and directed by someone who was raised by conscious parents. Because Black Panther is a modern retelling of the Assyrian drama. Right. It's the story of Asar, Aset, and Heru is in that story. So just to give you some context, Ryan Coogler didn't do anything new. He just did it better. Right. Superman is a story about the Assyrian drama. Batman is a story about the Assyrian drama. Today is May the 4th. Star Wars is a story about the Assyrian drama. Yes. This is the greatest story never told. Everybody takes our stuff and uses it as a stepping stone to greatness. So what Ryan Coogler did was to use that film. He used Disney's $100 million to create a film that made $1.3 billion. It was the most successful superhero film in history at that time. That film, that one film, made Ryan Coogler the most financially successful black writer and director in Hollywood history. And the brother was like 35 when he did it. And so I realized, and so Wakanda Forever, that's the Assyrian pose. Right. That's the Assyrian pose. The story begins with the telling of the legend of the first Black Panther. And so Bast leads the first chief to the heart-shaped herb. Bass is a character that comes out of Kemet. So in that story, he takes you back to the Nile Valley. I realized this brother is powerful. Let me watch him. Let me watch him. For me, the most significant scene in the Black Panther was a scene after T'Challa became officially the first Black Panther. He is buried in the Saurian pose, and he's buried by children, the 4 children of Heru. So all symbolism is all there if you know if you know the history and you know how to interpret what you're saying. And then he goes into the ancestral realm. Goes into the ancestral realm, and when he goes into the ancestral realm, he's wearing white, because white is the color associated with ancestors. White is the color associated with death. White is the color associated with spirit. So he's dressed in white, and he walks to that tree where the panthers, the ancestral panthers, are in the tree. His father jumps down and is transformed into a human being, and they start walking and talking, right? And then he turns to his father, and he says, "Baba, I am not ready." And his father says, "Well, have I not taught you from the time that you were a child how to do this, how to do that, how to do that?" T'Challa says, "No, Baba, I am not ready to be without you." So his heart is still broken because his father had just been murdered just 2 weeks before. He's still grieving the loss of his father. The most powerful line in that film is when his ancestral father says to his heartbroken son, "Any father who has not prepared his child for his death has failed as a father. Have I ever failed you?" And his son said, "No, Dad, you haven't." It took that conversation with his ancestors to bring him back to his true self so that he could fulfill his destiny. So when I saw that scene, I said, Ryan Coogler, the ancestors are working through Ryan Coogler in order to make the idea of ancestorship palatable to the eyes and ears and minds of Black folk who've been taught to be fearful of ancestors. When you pour libation, oh no, that's voodoo.
My mama used to be
Are
like
you
that?
going to hell?
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
Ryan Coogler has normalized something that is older than time. So in the second film, Wakanda Forever, it opens with a libation.
Yeah.
It opens with a libation. And in his latest film, Sinners, which is a love story to his ancestor, Uncle James, who died while he was editing the film Creed. Ryan wasn't there to be with him when he was on his deathbed. He got the news that his uncle died, flew back for the funeral, and then had to go back to LA to finish editing the film. But his heart was still aching because of the loss of his favorite uncle. And so Sinners is dedicated to the spirit of his uncle. It's all about the blues. And so it takes place in Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta. And so the essence of that story, if I can distill it down to the essence of the story, is about a father and son relationship. Father is a minister. The son wants to be a musician. The father, the preacher, believes that blues music is the music of the devil. But the son knows, no, this music connects me to my ancestors. So when his cousins, right, come back from Chicago. From Chicago.
They messed up there.
And they start Club Juke.
Right.
And Sammy has his debut. I want you all to think about how that whole scene, the most significant scene in any film, was in that film. It was less than 4 minutes, right? So in order for Ryan Coogler to sell the film to Warner Brothers, because it has to appeal to a broad audience. It's a story about Black folk, featuring Black folk doing our thing, but you got to appeal to white folk too, because white folk buy movie tickets too. And brown people buy movie tickets, and yellow people buy movie tickets. So you add in a horror element, vampires, but it's not a horror film. Vampires are a metaphor for the blood-sucking white folk who've been sucking our blood for 250 years. And so, the key is this. Remick the white Irish vampire, and there's a reason why he's Irish,
Right. Oh, yeah, I know. My granddaddy.
He did.
That's all right. Go ahead.
The vampire, who represents the forces of evil, has to be invited into your space.
That's
They
right.
can't just come in. You have got to invite evil into your space. All right? So when Sammy is having his debut, playing his guitar, he is now calling down the spirits of his ancestors.
Yeah.
That whole scene was a libation.
All that was.
All right? And so the first ancestor that appears is this African ancestor playing an instrument.
Right.
There was a prototype for the guitar.
Right.
He appears. And then comes his future descendant playing a guitar. And so what you witness is the African concept of past, present, and future all existing simultaneously. There's no such thing as time. Time is a man-made construct.
Come on now.
Africans understood that all time exists right now. Everything is everything, as Donny Hathaway said.
Yeah.
All time exists right now. So you saw that reality, and then the key to Sammy summoning the ancestors is that song that spoke of his relationship to his daddy. His daddy didn't want him doing this, so what did he have to do? He had to lie to his daddy. I lied to you.
Yeah.
I lied to you. And the hook in the song is, somebody take me in your arms tonight. He's calling the ancestors and inviting them to come into Club Juke to take me in your arms tonight. His ancestors came down, and his sound vibration was so powerful that the ancestors of everybody in Club Juke came down.
Right.
And they partied with them. Even the Chinese couple, even their ancestors. That's the power that black folk have always had. Because everybody comes from us.
Teach from.
All right? And Remick heard that, and Remick say, I need
Somebody-
that. I need that so that I can call my people back. That's what the whole story was about. Right? So Ryan Coogler is an instrument that the ancestors have used to awaken those of us who are ready to be awakened. So I'll share this with you and then I'll stop.
Right.
So, a good friend of mine had read the book before it was published and said, man, that essay that you have, The Incomparable Ryan Coogler, Ryan needs to see that. So give me a copy, Word document, and I'll get it to somebody who can get it to Ryan. So I said, cool. Sent it off. 2 days later, 8 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call. Hey man, I just got off the phone. So-and-so who just got off the phone with Ryan. Ryan read your piece and said that it brought him to tears. He said, but
Y'all should read it.
the last 4 paragraphs effed him up. Right? When I talked about the fact that Ryan Coogler, like many artists, has allowed himself to be used as an instrument for the ancestors to transform the consciousness of those who internalize their art. Whether you see it, whether you hear it, you internalize it and it becomes you, it affects you on a cellular level. So Coogler is doing that, and the brother's gonna be 40 years old at the end of this month.
Just 40.
All right? So his future is bright. And so what I'm always encouraging folk to do, support those artists who are doing good work.
Right.
Buy their CDs. Go to their conference. Go see their films. Don't buy the bootleg, right? Support them, because the first weekend in the box office determines the longevity and the future of that artist. So support the artist. Why? Because Paul Robeson said artists are the vehicles that free the masses.
Teach from.
Art is a liberatory tool that transforms consciousness. White folk know that. That's why they said we will no longer allow art to be used to raise consciousness. We're going to allow this gangster rap. We're going to allow this trap
Come on
music
now.
to proliferate, to keep these niggas down
That's right.
on the lowest level possible so that we will be safe. That's what's at stake. So the bottom line with that is, If you got children in the household, they're your children and it's your house.
Come on now.
Right.
You should determine what they listen to and what they watch. It's your house.
What they watch.
So if you love them,
If you love them.
that's what it boils down to. If you love them, you will not allow these agents of evil, these agents of the devil, to steal your child's soul. That is how serious this thing is. You don't play with it.
You don't play with that. So, I know we get to that point. I said that I would have you all be able to ask a couple of questions. Anybody got a question? Oh, that. All right. I'm gonna take two, Donna. Is that okay? And then we can sign. Where my Donna's at? No? Two. One. What's up, baby girl? All right. Nice.
First of all, I just want
Get
to
away
say.
from the speaker, you're getting feedback.
Get over there. Now ask. Yeah.
Okay, so first I would just want to say thank you for your body of work. I came into African consciousness studying religion vigorously, right? And so then somebody told me come to the doc, and I came to the doc about 10 years ago, and Now Valley Civilization was the first conscious book I ever read, and it was just like, wow, it blew my mind. So thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution to us that you have done for many, many, many years, and hopefully I can get on one of your tours. Hopefully I can, but I will say I'm in education too, and I understand what you're saying, Ricky, about the little kids, because I was in primary education, right? And they get on board, but now I'm in middle school. 13, 14, 15 years old, it's like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. We're not down with that. But I just want to say, like, for our community, we are taught, like, white people are our enemies, white people are our enemies, but we don't hear anything about Phoenician people. And so I would just like for you to speak on the Phoenicians and their contribution to our downfall in Africa as well. You know, we don't talk about who the Babylonians really are, and they're coming off into Africa being the first people, because Greeks are the ones that call them Phoenicians. So we don't talk about that. We don't know where this terminology of Elohim comes from, and to call, you know, God El Shaddai or whatever, and we think we're saying just the same name, not knowing that these people came in. We opened the door for these people. They were the first ones to come in, and then from that, you get all these other corners of people coming off into Africa and doing what they doing to us.
So my short response to your question is, read Chancellor Williams' The Destruction of Black Civilization.
I
He
knew he was
lays it
gonna
down
say that.
and makes it real simple.
I knew he was gonna say that.
And so my major point is, we spend too much time talking about other folk and don't spend enough time studying and talking about ourselves. And my request of black folk, spend a month not thinking or talking about anybody except yourself. Just spend a month. Don't think about white folk. Don't talk about white folk. Only think and talk about yourself for 30 days and watch how your life is transformed, right? And then make that your new way of moving forward. You got to start some race. Yes.
This is complete. She got notes to everything. I'm looking.
Alafimi out in Long Beach, I know you're probably not familiar with, but he's discussing the destruction of African civilization right now. If you're interested, I can give you that information. They have a book club on Wednesdays, Wednesday night. Okay, my question is, and I'm gonna say this phrase: I am all that has been, is, and will be, and no mortal has ever lifted my veil. That's in two response what we talked about. That's what she said, Neith. Am I saying her name right? Nieth. But what I want to know is your experience, and where you said you spent a night in one of the pyramids. Can you share that experience? And also, during your research and your what's it called, expeditions, yes. Have they allowed you to see any of the covenants? And have you ever participated in one of their ceremonial with the staff? I mean, that's a lot of questions, ain't it? I'm sorry. But it's all kind of related. So,
just
I didn't get it, but maybe you did.
just to respond, I didn't spend a night in the pyramids.
Say
That
his
was
first
Napoleon.
night in the pyramid.
That was Napoleon who spent the night in the pyramid and had a vision. I spent about 90 minutes in the pyramid by myself in the dark. That was on my second day to Egypt. And as I reflect, I talk about it in the book, as I reflect on my first trip to Egypt in 1980, that trip was, as I think about it, that trip was basically initiation, right? My first night in Egypt, myself and 5 other people went to Giza and stayed out at Giza all night long. The second night in Egypt, we came back to Giza to hook up with this guy we met the night before, and we climbed the pyramid and watched the sunrise, right? From the top of Khufu's pyramid. And then later that day, I stood between the paws of the Sphinx, because back in 1980, they didn't have all the barriers up now. You could do things then that you couldn't do now. That third day, on December the 25th, 1980, first day after the solstice, I went back to the pyramid, and I get there, and the guard at the entrance to the pyramid said the pyramid is closed because there's a power outage. So I said, look, I was here yesterday, went inside the pyramid, I got a flashlight, can I go in? And he's, yeah. So I had the pleasure of being in the pyramid by myself, in the dark, for almost 90 minutes. And I'm in that space where and I didn't know nothing about Kemet at that time. I was interested in architecture. Didn't know what I didn't know. But I was into a little bit of history. I was into meditation and things of that nature. So I decided while I was there in the King's Chamber that I wanted to meditate, right? I'm by myself. I don't have to worry about tourists coming in and interrupting me. So let me sit there. So as I'm sitting in the King's Chamber meditating, calming my mind, thinking about the fact, here I am at a place where I always wanted to be, inside of the pyramid, which is the geographical center of the landmass of the earth, in the dark, by myself, and nobody knows that I'm here, right? So as I started thinking, processing that and thinking, and then fear like entered my mind. Anything can happen to you and nobody knows that you're here. But then another voice said, Browder, you're protected, you're okay. And once I accepted that, I just got into the meditation and just vibed in that space. Then as I was coming out, I was visualizing where we were going to be going on the rest of our tour, seeing, Karnak and Abu Simbel, the things that we we're going to be seeing. I saw myself back at home, what I was going to be doing. And I also remember seeing myself walking in this space with pillars, and I didn't know what it was. It wasn't until 33 years later, after we are doing the Asa Restoration Project, which is dedicated to the memory of Asa Hilliard, right, a son of Texas. And after we had rebuilt the temple tomb of this 25th dynasty priest, Karakamen, and we rebuilt the pillared hall of Karakamen. And as I'm walking through this space, I realized this is what I saw in 1980. So I saw myself in a possible future. And as long as I continued to do what it was I was doing, then that future could become my real future. And I say that to say that the experiences that I've had are based on my willing to be fearless, which is why I can never understand someone talking about putting the fear of God in somebody. Dick Gregory taught us fear is the absence of God.
That's right.
Fear is the absence of God. So it's a matter of knowing who you are. and knowing that you're protected, and knowing that you're here to do specific things. Francis Chris Wilson, whose book here, The ISIS Paper, often said that every person is born with a cosmic assignment.
That's right.
Every soul comes back from the ancestral realm into the physical world to do something that you have promised to do in your lifetime. And if you maintain your relationship with your ancestral self in the physical world, then the ancestors will give you the powers and the abilities to do those things. And so that's how my experiences have played out, and that's the reason why I don't have a degree in Egyptology, but I know more about Egypt than most folk who specialize in it. I don't have a degree in archaeology, but I spent 16 years funding an archaeological excavation, exploring tombs. I don't have a degree or never took a class in researching, writing a book. I never took a Black history class in my life, but I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And as long as I do that, then I know everything's gonna be all right. I don't have to worry about anything. Everything's gonna be all right. So I'm saying that to say that I'm no different than anybody else in this room.
That's right.
I just was able to learn early in life what life is all about and made choices to move in this direction as opposed to that direction. Everything is about choice.
So,
Yes.
no, not here. We have 2 more short questions, y'all. I'm
And
telling you.
I'll keep my answers short.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
2 more questions, and so we can move through. Y'all haven't been here before. You'll be here all night trying to get all these. I'm just trying to help. Yes,
Two more questions, and then Pharaoh has to have the last question.
Pharaoh gets the last one.
He's the son of Abio doing
Ah.
okay?
Ah.
He's got to have it.
All right.
My question, thank you for coming. Secondly, you talked about Ryan Coogler and that story there, and about him getting ready to be 40 years old. It's making me think about a parallel across in the Sahel right now, where we have General Ibrahim Traore, channeling Sankara in raising the nation. What's your deal on him?
So
That's my main man, though.
all of us should be sending that brother prayers of protection, because we know what happens to African leaders who strive to do right by their people. France, Germany, England, America would do everything within their power to take him down. So let's ask the ancestors to protect him. Let's envision him having the same ancestral protection that Fidel Castro had. Right?
That's right.
Fidel Castro was able to resist numerous attempts by the CIA to destroy him. Why? Because he turned to African spiritualists to protect him. That's the only reason he survived. There is power in African knowledge and African spirituality. We are the greatest source of that power. So when we understand that and use that power for good, we change the world. So protect the brother. Put that energy out. Use the energy that you have for good. Yes, sir.
In your archaeological dig, what have you found to put truth to some of the lies we've been told? And the second part of that is, what is your take on the lost book of Enoch?
Well, what I can say based on my own personal, I don't know nothing about the book of Enoch, so I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. What I do know, based on the 15 years that I spent physically involved in excavating this tomb, moving in and out of this tomb, I mean, we must have found over well over 150 bodies buried. We started off excavating 3 tombs. We ended up with excavating over 40 tombs. We found the largest Kushite necropolis on the west bank of Luxor, Egypt. 25th dynasty, all right? Kushites, right? The main tomb that we were excavating was a tomb of this 25th dynasty priest by the name of Karakamen. Ka-Raket Amen. Karakamen, based on our research, was the son of Shabaka, the 3rd king of the 25th dynasty. Karakamen was a priest of Amen at Karnak Temple. Karnak Temple is the largest religious complex ever built on the planet. You can take every church built in London, put them inside the Karnak Temple, and still have room for 2 football fields. Karnak Temple, or Apet Asut, which is its African name, was the resident of Amen. Amen. Every temple in Kemet was associated with a specific aspect of the Creator. Every temple in Kemet had a Holy of Holies. Every temple in Kemet had what Jews referred to as an Ark of the Covenant. Ark of the Covenant ain't a Jewish creation, it's an African creation. And it's where the spirit of that aspect of God resided. So it was Karakamin's job to do the morning processions down Ipet Isut and evoke the word, to say the words that would evoke the presence of Amen. Amen is an African word that identifies the unseen presence of the Creator. So this priest, this brother whose image we've seen, whose temple we have restored, his job was to say the words to evoke the unseen presence of God in the Holy of Holies, so that every morning he called down the power, the spirit of that ancestor. And God is an ancestor, if you really understand what this thing is about. So he called this ancestor down into the Holy of Holies so that his spirit could be amplified and literally inspire in spirit the 83,000 priests and priestesses who worked at that temple complex. Ain't nobody on earth ever done that before. That's what we did. And we got all the physical evidence. I got the evidence. So I've seen things, I've gone to places, I've acquired information that I need to start writing about. And in order to do that, I need to stop traveling. So I'm doing my last study tours to Egypt this year.
I was
I'm
gonna tell
touring in June, one in July, and then December I'm done. So that I can start writing and doing some other things, because my best work is ahead of me. I'll share this with you and then we take the last question. One of the things that I have seen with my own eyes, because I've seen places in Egypt that no other black person has seen. I've been in tombs that no other black people don't even know exist. And I found in 2 tombs, on September the 28th, 2016, I found 2 tombs that had the Sankofa symbol painted on the ceiling.
Wow.
So I can now document the heart-shaped Akoma Sankofa symbol painted on two Kushite tombs, one 25th dynasty, one 26th dynasty. And so I've been able to trace the Sankofa symbol to Kush to at least 1600 BC. So there's a whole nother level of research that I'm engaged in now. There's a whole history that I need to write and document, because now is the time for this information to be revealed. And it can only be internalized and embraced by folk who are ready to receive it. And I know that now is the time for this information to be made accessible to those people who are living now, who made a conscious choice to be born at this particular point in time in history, to save and to transform the world. Last question.
Yes.
Hey, it's an honor to meet you finally, brother. My name is Pharaoh, and first of all, I was going to talk about ask about the word Amen. I've been teaching this for a minute, how all of the ancient deities are black. And I know oftentimes we think of it because they were created by black people, but I wanted you to talk briefly about it because it is the dark matter, if you will. The blackness in the sky behind all of the, whether you worship the sun like Christians do, or Saturn, or whatever, but that darkness behind it. And Amen, the meaning of Amen, and I think you just said it, right, is the hidden, if you will, the unseen, right? Okay, that's one thing I would like you to talk about. But this second part of the question is really personal, but I'll just mention it because I wanted to ask you personally. Me and my dad have come up with a concept to do a book. My father's one of the last poets. So we came up with a concept called Black Scriptures, because I moved down here to the Bible Belt and listening to the stories, I married a preacher's daughter, listening to the stories all the time, and how we are so inspired by, the story of Job and whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute. Our real life stories are more amazing than these stories. So why not create a book written? And I have, the reason that I'm mentioning my father, because we have access to some of the greatest poets, the greatest creative writers, and they're all on board because this will be done in his name. And I'm reaching out to you because I want to have a book that's written by these creative writers all about our historical figures in history, starting from, I don't know, as far as back as whoever, Imhotep, right? Coming all the way up to Martin and Malcolm, if you will. But I would love your assistance with that. Okay. So that's my question.
All right, so in the second part of the book is divided into 4 basic subject matters. The second subject matter is why Kemet matters. And in that section, I've got 2 chapters that speak to your question about Christianity, about how the Bible came to be. And again, I give my references. So I've got 4 books listed in one of those chapters that answers the question and tells you who all of the people in the Old Testament and New Testament are, where their sources came from. And I give you my sources. So and one of the authors is Jewish. And he essentially says that the Old Testament is about Jewish mythology, Jewish folklore, which are stories strung together like pearls on a string. They ain't real, right? They're metaphors. So to your first question, answering your first question about Amen, that is directed to one of the first questions that Ricky asked me about the riddle of the Sphinx. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, 3 legs in the evening. It also is a metaphor for the sun, the position of the sun as it moves across the sky. When the sun is born in the morning, it's Kepre, a word that means rebirth or renewal. When the sun reaches its highest point at noon, it's known as Re, which represents the creator on high. When the sun sets or dies, it's Amen. So the 3 positions of the sun also represents the 3 positions of life, also represents the riddle of the Sphinx. So there are all these metaphors that were created in order for the people who were not highly educated, who were not the scientists, who were not the astronomers, who were not the physicians, understood information on a certain level, and that information had to be distilled symbolically and metaphorically for those folk who were not literate, so that they could at least understand the story. They didn't understand the science behind it or the spirituality behind it, but by understanding the story and aligning yourself with the story, then the energy from the story can move through you and move you along with everybody else. So that's how everything has come into existence. Everything has come to existence. Everything is interrelated. So my thing has always been, it's all right if you want to worship somebody else's God. It's all right, but at least be courageous enough to go back to the original source material. All right? So people are where they are, and you have a right to be wherever you want to be, right? And my suggestion is the same thing that Clark said. If you're gonna be a Christian, be the best Christian possible, and internalize those principles of love and kindness. If you're gonna be a Muslim, be the best Muslim possible. And live your life understanding the principles of love, because it's all about love. There's no space for hatred or confusion or ignorance in the light of love. So again, I close with Maurice White. Hearts of fire create love, desire to take you higher, higher to the place on the throne. Tony Browder, thank you all very much.
Thank y'all. Thank you very much. So let me tell you what's going to take place right quick.
Okay, we're gonna do the signing